welcome to all of the attendants to my session. Hope to interest you with what I have to show and just start immediately. Okay, what we are talking about today. First of all, just let me present me. My name is Marco Dal Pino. I'm a senior program manager in IT and software development company. I'm also an MVP, a Microsoft MVP, and an Intel Black Belts. I'm essentially involved in many activities about IoT for my company and my work. And what we see today will be something not common in the usual spectrum of application we see about IoT. What we talk about today is the sensor we have in the auto, in our car, but we'll try to see how to manage this sensor, how to use it, and obviously have the possibility to manage the data we grab from the car and store it in a backend on the cloud. And after this, we can also manage to analyze this data and have some metrics about our type of driving, our usual trip we are doing, how is about the fuel consumption of our car, and so on. So just start. What's autosensor is essentially? Autosensor is a system that grab metrics from the car sensor. As you all know very well, a car already have inside a lot of sensor that control the engine, some of the specific about the fuel consumption, the many of the parameter about the temperature, about specific part of our car. But all these sensor, all these information usually are not available to us. We only control, for example, the level of the fuel, the temperature of the refrigerant, but we don't have control, or we can't have more information than is actually possible to have, because the electronics inside the car manage a lot of information. So we grab this information and we see after how we do it. We will manage GPS data from a gateway. The system will use as a gateway usually a phone, a smartphone, or otherwise a 3G gateway, the normal 3G gateway we use to connect many devices to the cellular line. Autosensor implements a trip management that is naturally a sort of navigation system, but also not only and not specifically a navigation system that we usually also have inside our phones, or sometime also already installed inside our car. But a trip management is a sort of application that permit us to check which type of driving we are doing. For example, if we are a driver that use too often the acceleration or the deceleration too fast or not so fast, and can calculate also analyzing our trips. This application can show us a percent of our skill of driving, a sort of examination of our how well we are driving. Then next one is a notification and messaging system, something that can manage a sort of hub of information notification, not only from our usual social network or whatsoever, because for that probably we already have some solution inside our smartphone, but also have notification and messages that came from events that happen inside our car. For example, we want to check or have a notification when we are consuming more than a specific level of fuel. So this system can tell us immediately when we are getting over a specific step of consumption, and advise us with a notification message or a noisy a beep or whatsoever. Then, last but not least, this type of system can integrate inside a media management that, okay, probably you already have inside your car, but can be integrated with this system, or having a sort of hub of all the information inside your that are already in your car, for probably also in your phone. For example, managing to share inside your car also the, for example, the music you have stored inside your phone, and also having the possibility to stream music directly from internet if you have a application that can do it, or the application can manage it. Okay, that's the feature in general, but the system, how it works. This is a screenshot for the main screen we have on our system, where we have on the left corner the menu where we can access the different menus. In the higher part of the screen, we have all the information that tell us what is our fuel consumption, how long we are running from the start of our trip, and the time for that. And also other parameter. In this case, we see the information load, the engine load, but we can also have other type of information. In this case, we also have a sort of trip description that follow our vehicle from the starting position in the point A to the actual position in point B. Obviously, this is only one of the application, because we can also have the projection, the usual projection we can have with the an application that can show us the correct way to reach another place, a normal navigation system. Then, how this hardware is built? This hardware is built basically with a touch display, a normal touch display we use with many electronic board. And in my case, I have choose the system to base the system on Windows 10 Iot Core. That is an operating system specific for the IoT system that request low resources. In this case, we can use this operating system that I explain better in just a moment. I can deploy it on different board. I just reported some of the different board that we can deploy on. First of all, the Raspberry Pi 3. Another one is the Minoboard Max, that is a board based on Intel Atom CPU. The Dragon board is another board based on ARM, the Qualcomm ARM chipset, like is an ARM chip like the Raspberry Pi, and generic board that support Intel CPU. Why I don't specify only one specific board? Because in this case we are talking about all the IoT board actually running with a CPU x86 or x64. Sorry for the inconvenience, because the system tell me that is sharing, but sharing the wrong. I try to recall what I already shown very speedily. So here, what autosensor is, and these are the as I already explained, are the feature we implement in the application. Metrics that coming from the card sensor, the GPS data that we get from the gateway, usually a phone, the trip management in the following and in the navigation, and also in the analyzation of your trip, the notification and messaging system, and the media management. Next, I show this slide where I have the screenshot of the system. And here you can see that in the top part, in the higher part of the screen, I have the menu, the hamburger menu that permit me to access the menu for changing the function, and a message bar where I can show some of the information the system give me. Next one, I'm going just more speedily in this case because I already talked about it. We have the different type of board we can try to use with this operating system. Just to clarify specifically about Windows 10 IoT Core is. The Windows 10 IoT Core is a new, relatively new version of Windows 10 that permit to deploy Windows 10 on some small board like the one I have here, and having specific feature and performance. What I intend. Windows 10 IoT Core is a bit different from the Windows 10 we usually have on our PC or on our normal computer, because Windows 10 IoT Core share with the big, let me define it, the big operating system, all the kernel, all the basic part, but don't have the shell part, the desktop as we usually know. For example, we don't have the start screen, have the experience of having the desktop, having for example, having the taskbar, and having the more than one application that can share the use of the output of the system. What Windows 10 IoT Core permit is to have just one universal Windows platform application, what we normally define the Windows 10 application, as we can download from the Windows Store, and this application can also use the output of the board and have have an interface with the customer, receive input from different input devices whatsoever, but only this application. Other application can be run in background. You can run as the number of application you want. There's not a limit. Probably only the memory on your system is the limit. But only one of these application can manage to have an output and have a full screen output to the customer. And that is exactly what I do here, because my system need to have only one specific application. I only need to manage the information I show here, show my map, but I don't need to have other application like, for example, a browser or other application that running and getting the output, because it's essentially impossible. As I described, Windows 10 IoT Core can run in front side only one application at a time. How the system essentially work? Actually, my system is based on another project that Microsoft showcased in a conference last year. In this case, what I do is try to getting in the middle my system to the already developed complete system that Microsoft create just for showcase a similar solution. Now I try to describe briefly what is the solution. The solution I'm talking about is called My Driving. is an open source project that Microsoft Corporation prepare for its developer conference build in 2016. The solution gets data from the car and showcase some of this information on an application locally in the car on the smartphone, and get all the data, all the telemetries, and send it to Azure, to a backend placed on Azure. I tried to showcase this better in just a moment. First of all, I said a couple of times that we get the metrics of the sensor from our car, but how I can do it in a system that don't interfere with the normal function of my car. Okay, I use, and also the system developed from Microsoft is using the same. I use a system defined OBD2. What's OBD2? You can easily search on the internet for this type of system. Essentially, this is a standard type of interface that can be plugged in your car if your car is built after 1998. Probably you already have the connection for this type of device inside your car. What you can do is connect to this device that essentially is a small dongle. You can plug it in your car, and usually this dongle have a type of connection with an external system that could be via Bluetooth. In this case, I can connect with from my smartphone, or in my case, from my system, from auto sensor, directly to the plug, and communicate with it in a normal serial messaging system. It's the plug respond me just like a device that send or receive text message. These messages obviously are defined by some rules that define which type of message could be sent or received, and describe also the meaning of this message. Connection with the device is not only with Bluetooth. It exists also some device that is use the Wi-Fi connection. In this case, this type of plug of OBD devices could be better for using with the iPhone devices. Otherwise, the Bluetooth devices is better for use with Windows or Android device. Where I can plug my device? Just under the dashboard of my car. Just if you look down your dashboard of your car, probably you find this small type of connector. Is similar to the old SCART connector of the television, if someone remember it, but is a plug that is standard, essentially. The system based on AutoSense auto sensor and obviously my driving system developed from Microsoft provide the possibility to get information from more than one car, but for each car it needs to have a different device. But with this, you can also manage different car and different driver that manage and use the application. What are the information we're getting from my driving? My driving is essentially just a reading for the information we get from the sensor, and using the connection of the phone, send it to Azure. Now I try to show you the architecture of my driving, where I'm inserting my my system. I'm sorry that I can show the animation that get each part of the architecture step by step, but I try to select it to showcase. Okay, first of all, the first part of the architecture is the car, because we start getting our information from our car, where we have the OBD sensor and dongle. That is connected, you see, with the Wi-Fi or Bluetooth with our gateway, that is usually a mobile phone, a smartphone. And in my case, I also insert in the chain my auto sensor system that directly communicate with the field, with the dongle, for getting directly the information from the engine, from the car, the speed, the fuel consumption, and whatsoever. And communicate with the field gateway, in this case with the phone, just to getting the GPS information, getting the internet connection if we need it, for example, for streaming, or having to send the data to the cloud. What's happening out of our car is that we have on the Azure side, we have what we name the cloud gateway, that in the naming convention of Azure is named IoT Hub. Is essentially a service that can ingest our data without the need to having a synchronization process. I can have a lot of devices that at the same time send data to my hub, and I can ingest all the data coming from all my sensors around the world with no problem, with no clue that I lost any of them. IoT Hub also managed to create a queue inside of him to ingest the data. And what IoT Hub permit me is to manage the identification and authentication of my device that communicate the data or try to receive the data. This happened with a specific procedure that I do at the setup process of my device, of my application on the device, where I register the application on that I install on my smartphone to the IoT Hub. In that way, I say, okay, I am the smartphone of Marco. I'm on the car, obviously, of Marco, and I'm sending data for his car, the Jeep, whatsoever. The IoT hub provide a key that return the key registration that is sent back to the system inside the application. And with this key, the application can authenticate every time try to send data to IoT hub. In the next part of the just after the IoT hub, when I have ingested the data, but before to store it, we have some other process that can be done directly to the information before they have stored in our backend. The first of this is the analysis of the data, the in-stream processing of our message we are sending. The name as a service in the Azure platform is Stream Analytics. That is what the name say is a sort of a process that can analyze and give me some result about the analyzation of the stream of data I'm receiving. As a result of this analyzation, I can also manage to store the data I'm receiving in a raw way or just in an already managed way. That is done by my message bus and processing unit that in the name of Azure are Event Hub and Service Fabric. What are these two two other services? These are first of all, the message bus, that is, the name is Event Hub, is a sort of pass-through and queue manager for our messages that are queued for the processing unit, the service fabric, where I can fix some rule or some procedural rule that can manage what do and what understand or how to manage the message I receive. And I can, in this case, manage only some message I have just in the processing power I have, not just more. For this reason, I need to queue it using the Event Hub. On the lower part here, I have 3 blocks that are machine learning, the storage, and the monitoring. That are 3 blocks apparently not directly connected, and in some way could be. First of all, machine learning, what is and what I do with it inside the system. Machine learning is a service that is hosted on Azure that permit me to create rules or algorithm of machine learning, or instruct system that can learn and by himself also increases his knowledge about a specific problem or specific data I'm acquiring. In this case, what we do with machine learning is to manage all the algorithm about evaluating the good or bad weight of driving of the driver. Okay, so the data we are getting from the car, from the field, are not only stored but analyzed to evaluate the score of the driver. Okay, the storage, I think it's simple, is used just to store our data. The monitoring, in this case, the name is Up Insight, is connected to some of the features that are exposed on the mobile application part. In this case, this part is specific for interfacing the application on the smartphone with the system. What's happened here is to define different type of API just for the provision of the device, the profiling, the trip managing, and in this case, the point of interest that are some of the features that the application manage. But what are these? The provision API is something that is needed specifically for a type of distribution way that Microsoft use for this application, that is using the Oki app distribution monitor application that need to have some own provision API that we have to define on the backend. This part of the application is just specific for the distribution system based on Oki app. I don't use it for my system because I don't need it. I have used directly access to the Azure because otherwise I have to build and run more services that for my specific application is not useful. But I leave in the I leave it in the architecture, because if you want to get what the specific complete my driving application do, you can have information about. On the upper part here, there are other blocks inside the architecture that manage different part of the flow. In this case, what we find in this upper part is the data analyzation, and presentation via Power BI. The application that Microsoft built, My Driving, is very complex because try to use a lot of the blocks that are in the workflow for not only Azure, but also for the business intelligence solution from Microsoft. And all the data, not only stored, because in the storage here I have the raw data I receive that are in that case analyzed using HD Insight and managed to elaborate this data to prepare for future new analysis via Power BI. For someone that could not know what Power BI is a solution for data warehousing hosted by Microsoft. Why I showcase all of this? Because my system is based but not completely depending on this infrastructure. What I do, as I already said, is to put me in between from the car and the field gateway, and try to manage more information on the device and less on the cloud. I'm actually refining the detail of the application. I have something that still don't work, I have to admit, but I'm a developer, and you can understand me if something in my application continue to don't work, but I'm solving this problem, and I will publish all the auto sensor solution on GitHub in the next weeks, and you can find it directly on GitHub. What I can actually show next are some of the resources I can share with you about where to find more about the information I talk about. The first link, Windows on Devices, is the site where you can find, download and learn how to use Windows 10 Iot Core. That probably I don't say before, but is free to use just for home or commercial use. So you can use your board with Windows 10 Iot Core also on commercial project. The second link is the Microsoft project about my driving, where you can find, I can show it. It's this one. This site is the site of the My Driving application. You find all the resources. You see also some link about the device we can use, the OBD, and the description, and also the link to the GitHub repository of the application. Another thing I just want to not show, but just talk in a couple of words, is what I will use for my ingestion part for auto sensor. That will be Azure IoT Suite. That is, just in 2 words, is something we see in the architecture we see for my driving, but in a black box solution. Azure IoT Suite is something that I can run with a wizard, with a next wizard. I attach my device, and as a normal black box, I send my data, and I have an automated built dashboard like this, where I can manage to showcase the data I'm sending, or I want to receive onto my device. I can obviously personalize the information I'm receiving, showing, and the way to do it. Just to be clear, the OBD2 device are standard Bluetooth device that support the message communication. Every device that support Bluetooth 4 can connect to it. I think I hear about some guys that do it using some Arduino or similar devices, and it works like a charm, with no problem. Thank you for attending my session, and hope to see you again around. I can share my Twitter handle, where you can find me and also ask me every question you want, also after the session. For me, it's a great pleasure to have exchange about this. Thank you, and have a nice day to all of you.